Hello and welcome to another Channel Insights interview from the Channel Institute. And today I'm joined by Ed Moore, who's Director of MSPs and Channel Development for Western Europe at Microsoft. And we'll be talking today about partner profitability. So firstly, welcome Ed. Thank you for joining us today. In terms of channel partners, why would you want to work with channel partners in the first place?
The main reason is scale. So the main context why Microsoft works with the channel over the last 30 years is really to scale our solutions and drive the implementation of those solutions and user adoption. So if you look at Microsoft, we've over 600,000 channel companies reselling, implementing, doing development on top of our solutions and services. And really from a global sales force of 40,000 people, that sales force is increased by a factor of 10 with the 600,000 channel companies we have reselling our products and services.
Okay. And why would channel partners want to work with a vendor like Microsoft?
Well, the main reason is profitability. And so from a context of a lot of those 600,000 companies are small businesses. Some of them are publicly floated companies. Microsoft is a strong component of the suite of services they would resell, and also the delivery of IT services they would sell to their customers. And so the core fundamental of why they sell us is because A, customers are using our products and services, and B, partners have figured out a profitable model where they can accelerate their growth by essentially selling, but more so driving the usage, adoption, and management of those ITC services for the customers.
Okay. And you mentioned profitability, and I know this is top of mind for you in particular. How do you define profitability for partners, and how do you go about optimizing that?
Yeah, so in Microsoft, we essentially try to squeeze partners into predominant business models, so what drives their core profit. And so we've defined that across 4 business model types. A reselling business model, essentially a company that resells our software. So that means they make a front and back end margin. We have services companies, which we call SIs, or service integrators. They may resell our services, but fundamentally they do the implementation, design and management of those services, and their business is driven by resource utilization or charging people on a daily or a monthly rate. The third category is IP, so ISVs, or so like Microsoft is the biggest, one of the biggest ISVs in the world. So there's tens of thousands of companies and startups who are essentially building IP and looking to scale that. And then the fourth category is managed service providers. So managed service providers are companies that essentially resell our software, but fundamentally provide a centralized management of those services to their end customers. And so they're constantly optimizing the delivery of those services to the customer in a centralized format that ultimately drives their increased profit.
Okay. And are there key things that you're noticing that really help in defining and optimizing that profitability in certain models?
Yeah, so for each business model type, there are different optimization techniques, and the optimization techniques do differ company to company, even within that business model type. The reason being is that it's very rare that one company does just one of those business models. They might do one or all of them, but they do tend to have a predominant one that drives core profit for them. And so we tend to focus on the predominant business model once we qualify that. And so if you look at a services company or an SI company, one of the key optimization techniques you try to focus on is driving utilization of resources. So i.e., if the people they have that they bill aren't fully utilized, effectively they're losing money. And then the second component of that is the daily chargeable rate. So you look at the services and the skills they have and say, well, if we can move up the stack of value going to higher end delivery services, then effectively you can charge more of a daily rate and drive increased utilization. So for each partner type, there's different techniques you would use to do that. But again, the core of getting partners buy into that is, as a vendor, you can actually complement or support the development of those net new capabilities that will drive those two components.
Okay, interesting. And are there any key numbers that you think people should be aware of in terms of identifying a profitability level?
Yeah, look, there's a very basic formula you can use for any partner type. Effectively, you look at essentially 4 lines. You look at what software they would resell. So be it Microsoft or Cisco or any of those types of providers, what software services they resell, and assume a 5% margin across that total revenue. You'd look at the total hardware they would resell. Again, Cisco, HP, Dell, assume a 15% margin. And then you look at services, so i.e. Services they deliver remotely or on-site with an individual. You take that total revenue and assume a 100% margin. From a cost perspective, you would then add up the total people employed by that company, assume a loaded cost. So if somebody costs 65K on average, you assume 100K for insurance, building, et cetera, and then you take that total people cost away from the total margin, and you'll get a net margin position. The reason why that's important is because depending on the range of net margin they're making, if they're making between 0 and 10%, then from a P&L perspective, they're very risk adverse. They're not willing to do anything that's going to put their P&L at risk, because cash flow is essentially a challenge. If they're between 10 and 20%, they either may be risk adverse or they may want to grow. And then anybody above 20% is generally making really, really good money. They're the companies that you really want to partner with. The question is can you really complement their profitability growth? If they're making 30, 40 points, our ability to influence that could be negligible unless they're going for valuation.
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks for sharing that. And on that, for any students that are taking our certificate in channel management, then are there any key takeaways that you think they should be thinking about?
Yeah, look, regardless of if you're working for a vendor or an IP company or an ISV that effectively wants to build a channel, there needs to be a very clear intent that you want to build that channel, because there can be a conflict between direct sales and a channel organization in terms of compensation. If a company wants to be a channel-orientated company, they need to be very clear where they want that channel to play, number one. And then number two is that you do need to be very, very clear about what your value proposition is to drive effectively increased profitability for those companies. And so you may pivot on a partner type, so IP, SI, MSP, or reseller. And you need to pick one of those, but you need to be very clear what your proposition is. And then the third piece is if you're building a net new channel, you'll need to overinvest in the first number of years, because if there's no pull from the customer and you're looking for the channel to prime demand, then you're going to have to pay for it. So there's a very high cost when you're effectively building a net new channel. And then after the second to third year, when there's customer momentum and partners see the profitability path, then effectively they go. But it is a long-term strategy.
Great. Well, Ed, lots of food for thought there for our students. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
You're welcome.